Chapter 1. Born in the Eye of the Storm. Rosario, Argentina, 1928. A hot wind blows through the streets of a country on edge. In a small house, on a quiet night, a child is born. But not just any child. This boy, tiny, fragile, will one day shake the world. His name? Ernesto Guevara de la Serna. His parents, Celia and Ernesto, hold him close. They whisper softly to their newborn, their eyes full of hope. But they have no idea of the storm that will one day follow him. In these early years, Argentina is changing. The country is struggling. Politically, economically. It's a time of tension, of unrest. People are fighting for their rights. The poor demand justice, and the rich hold on to power. Little Ernesto is born into this world, a world that is already divided. But tonight, all is quiet. His mother, Celia, watches over him. She knows her son is different. She can feel it. He is curious, strong, even as a baby. He will grow up with a heart full of questions and fire in his soul. As he grows, Ernesto, Che, as he will later be called, becomes a boy full of energy and adventure. But there is a challenge that no one expects. Asthma. It strikes him suddenly, out of nowhere, leaving him breathless. His lungs fight against him, robbing him of air. His chest tightens. He gasps for breath. But does this stop him? No! This is not a boy who gives up easily. Every time the asthma attacks, Che fights back. He runs, he plays, he pushes himself harder than other children. He will not let his body control him. Each time he struggles to breathe, he learns something new. He learns how to fight. Even as a child, Che's mind is restless, full of questions about the world around him. He reads books that are far beyond his age, books about history, about war, about revolutions. Why, he asks, do some people have everything while others have nothing? The unfairness of life shocks him. It makes him angry, but also determined. He sees the suffering of the poor, the pain of those who are forgotten by society, and deep inside him, a new feeling begins to grow, a burning desire to change things, to make them right. His parents notice the fire inside him. His mother, Celia, encourages his curiosity. She gives him books, teaches him to think freely, to always question authority. His father, Ernesto, is proud of his son's courage, proud of his rebellious spirit. The family moves to a farm in the countryside, a place far from the noise of the city. Here, Che discovers the beauty of nature, but also the harshness of life for the poor farmers. He watches as workers struggle to survive, their hands worn from the soil, their faces tired from years of hard labor. The young boy feels their pain. He knows, even at this age, that this is not the way life should be. Years pass, and Che continues to grow. But so does his asthma. The attacks become more frequent, more violent. There are nights when he lies in bed, gasping for breath, fighting with all his strength to stay alive. His parents watch helplessly, wondering if he will make it through the night. But Che is a fighter. Every time he pulls through. And with each battle against asthma, he grows stronger, not weaker. He learns that life is a struggle, but one worth fighting for. In school, Che is brilliant. His teachers admire his intelligence, his sharp mind. But there is something else about him, something different. He does not care about the usual things, money, fame, or success. No, what matters to him is justice. What matters to him is the suffering of the poor, the cries of the hungry. He reads about revolutions, about men who stood up against injustice, and he wonders, could he be one of them? As a teenager, Che becomes more and more rebellious. He questions his teachers, challenges the rules. He speaks out against the government, against the way the world is run. His friends see him as a leader, someone who is not afraid to say what he believes, even when it gets him into trouble. But Che's ambitions are not just dreams. He has a goal: to study medicine. He believes that through medicine, he can help people, he can heal the sick. But even more than that, he sees medicine as a way to understand the human body, to understand life itself. The day he leaves for medical school, his parents watch him go with pride, but also with sadness. They know their son is meant for great things, but they also know that the road ahead will not be easy. In Buenos Aires, at university, Che dives deep into his studies. He learns about diseases, about the human body, about the power of healing. But his heart still burns for something more, something bigger. He wants to heal the body, yes. But what about the soul of a country? What about the broken systems that leave so many in poverty? It's during these years that Che begins to dream of a different life, not as a doctor in a hospital, but as a revolutionary, someone who fights for change, for equality, for justice. The spark inside him grows, and soon it will become a flame that will light the way for millions. Che Guevara's early life is one of struggle, of passion, of endless questions. Born into a world of chaos, he refuses to stand by and watch the suffering around him. He is a boy who breathes rebellion, who dreams of a better world. His journey has only just begun. But already, the signs of greatness are there. The storm is coming, and Che Guevara will be right at its center. And so begins the story of Che, the story of a boy born in the eye of the storm, destined to become a force the world would never forget. Chapter 2: The Rebel at Heart. From the very start, Ernesto was different. He wasn't like the other boys. While they played games, laughed, and ran through the streets, young Ernesto was reading. And not just any books. He read the great thinkers of history. Books about revolutions, about wars, about heroes who stood up against power. He read about men who dared to dream of a better world. His family noticed. "He's always lost in thought," they'd say, "always asking questions." His mind never stopped, never rested. And with each new book he devoured, something inside him grew. A fire, a restlessness, a deep anger at the world's injustice. As a boy, Ernesto saw things that many people chose to ignore. He saw the hunger in the streets. He saw the workers, their hands rough and bleeding from labor, struggling to survive while the rich lived in comfort. He noticed the children, barefoot and cold, begging for food. These images haunted him. They cut him deeply. One day, he asked his mother, Celia, "Why is the world like this? Why do some have so much and others so little?" She paused, not sure how to answer. "The world is unfair, Ernesto," she said softly, "but you must find your own way to make it better." These words stayed with him, always. At school, Ernesto's teachers saw his brilliance, but they also saw his defiance. He was always questioning, always challenging the rules. If a lesson didn't make sense to him, he would speak out. If he thought something was unjust, he would say so, loudly. The other students watched, amazed. He was fearless. He didn't care if the teacher got angry or if he was punished. For him, truth mattered more than anything. But this rebellious spirit didn't just stay in the classroom. At home, with his family, Ernesto was just as fiery. At the dinner table, he would argue with his father, with his uncles, about politics, about society. "Why should the rich have all the power?" he would ask. "Why do the poor suffer so much?" His father, a strong and proud man, admired Ernesto's passion. But he also worried. He saw that this fire inside his son could lead to a difficult path, one full of danger, struggle, and pain. "Ernesto," he would say, "the world doesn't change easily. Be careful, my son." But Ernesto's heart was already set on one thing: change. As he grew older, Ernesto's rebellious nature only deepened. By the time he was a teenager, he was already known as someone who would not back down. He spoke his mind, no matter the cost. In fact, his friends began to look up to him. He became their leader, not because he wanted power, but because he inspired them. His words, his passion, his fire, it drew people in. One night, as he sat with his friends around a campfire, he told them, "We can't just sit back and watch the world fall apart. We have to do something. We have to stand up for those who can't fight for themselves." His friends listened in awe, feeling the power in his words. Ernesto was not just talking. He truly believed it. And that belief was contagious. But Ernesto didn't just talk about change. He acted. He started helping wherever he could. If someone was sick, he would be there, offering help. If someone was hungry, he would share his food. He would stand up to bullies, defend those who couldn't defend themselves. His actions spoke louder than words. It was around this time that Ernesto began to understand something important. His path would not be an easy one. His desire for justice, for equality, would make him enemies. And even worse, it would bring him pain. But he was ready. He felt a duty, a responsibility. He couldn't look away from the suffering around him. The more he saw, the more his heart burned with anger and compassion. He couldn't stand the sight of children crying from hunger, or workers being treated like animals. Every time he witnessed injustice, it was like fuel to the fire already raging inside him. In his spare time, Ernesto would read about great revolutionaries, people who had risen up to fight against oppression. He read about Simón Bolívar, who had fought for freedom in South America. He studied Karl Marx, whose ideas about society and power fascinated him. But it wasn't just the theories that interested Ernesto. It was the idea of action. He didn't want to just read about change. He wanted to be the change. In the back of his mind, an idea began to form. What if he could lead a revolution one day? What if he could help the poor, the forgotten, the ones who had no voice? These thoughts kept him awake at night. His dreams were no longer just dreams. They were turning into plans. But Ernesto wasn't just a rebel in his mind. He rebelled against his own body, too. His asthma, always there, always threatening to slow him down, was his enemy. Every time an attack came, leaving him breathless, he would fight it with everything he had. He refused to let it stop him. His family watched in amazement as he pushed himself through the pain, determined to live life to the fullest. This fight, this constant battle against his own body, only made him stronger. It built his willpower, his endurance. It made him even more determined to never give up. If he could fight asthma, he thought, he could fight anything, even the injustices of the world. By the time Ernesto reached his late teens, He had already decided. His life would not be like everyone else's. He would not settle for comfort, for wealth, for an easy life. No, his destiny was something greater. He wanted to fight for something bigger than himself. He wanted to leave a mark on the world, to stand up for those who could not stand up for themselves. The world was broken, but Ernesto believed it could be fixed if enough people had the courage to fight for it. And in his heart, he knew. He was one of those people. The rebel inside him had already been born, and soon the world would know his name. Che Guevara. The stage was set. The fire inside him was blazing brighter than ever, but this was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The Curse of Asthma and Strength. Asthma, his constant enemy. From the time Ernesto was a small boy, it attacked him, always waiting in the shadows. His lungs would tighten. The air would disappear from his body. Every breath felt like a battle. He would cough, wheeze, and gasp for air. Some nights, it seemed like he might not make it through. But this wasn't just a sickness. It was a curse that haunted him day and night, trying to break him down. Asthma was a cruel enemy. When other children played and ran free, Ernesto had to stop. His body betrayed him. He would be forced to rest, to breathe deeply, trying to calm his lungs. The nights were the worst, lying in bed, eyes wide open, struggling to catch even a single breath. He could hear his mother, Celia, in the next room, worried, always ready to help. Sometimes his chest would feel like it was on fire. He could barely speak, let alone breathe. "Breathe, Ernesto. Just breathe," his parents would whisper. But it was never that simple. But even as a young boy, Ernesto made a choice, a powerful choice. He would not let this curse defeat him. No. He decided early on that he would fight his own body if he had to. Asthma would not control him. It would not win. If he had to face this enemy every day, he would face it like a warrior. When the attacks came, when his body screamed for him to stop, Ernesto pushed through. If he couldn't run as fast as the others, he would run anyway, even if it meant gasping for air after. If his chest hurt from playing football, he kept playing. Every time the asthma tried to stop him, he found a way to keep going. The pain didn't make him weaker. It made him stronger. It was as if Ernesto had something to prove, not just to others, but to himself. The world wasn't fair, and his own body wasn't fair either. But he wasn't going to let that stop him. He became a fighter, not just in spirit, but in body. As Ernesto grew older, his asthma became more and more severe. The attacks hit him suddenly, often at the worst times. He would be in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly, his chest would tighten. He would be forced to stop, to fight for air. His friends would look at him with concern. But Ernesto? He refused to give in. "I'm fine," he would say, forcing a smile. "It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. The pain was real. Every attack was a reminder that he was different, that his body was working against him. But instead of giving up, Ernesto trained himself to endure it. If his body was going to fight him, he would fight back. He learned to control his breathing, to slow his heart rate when the attacks came. He became an expert at calming his own body, at pushing himself to the limit and then going beyond it. In the countryside, where Ernesto's family lived, the air was fresh, but the attacks still came. The hot Argentine summers only made things worse. Some days, the heat made it feel impossible to breathe. His chest would seize up and the familiar wheeze would return. But this time, he didn't panic. He would sit under a tree, his back against the trunk, his hands on his knees, breathing slowly, in and out, until the tightness eased. His friends admired him for this. "How can you be so calm?" they would ask. But Ernesto just shrugged. Inside, he knew the truth. He couldn't afford to panic. If he let fear take control, asthma would win, and he wasn't about to let that happen. Ernesto's battle with asthma wasn't just physical, it was mental too. The sickness forced him to grow stronger in his mind. Every attack, every sleepless night, taught him one thing: resilience. He learned to live with pain, to accept it as part of life. This made him different from other boys his age. While they feared discomfort, Ernesto welcomed it. He understood something that few people his age ever did. Strength is born from struggle. The lessons he learned from asthma became part of his character. He learned to never give up, not on himself, not on his dreams. He could suffer, yes, but he would survive. And more than that, he would thrive. In time, Ernesto's fight with asthma shaped the way he saw the world. If he could overcome his own body, he thought, what else could he overcome? This illness had tried to control him, to crush his spirit, but it only fueled his determination. He refused to be limited by his sickness. He refused to be a victim. In fact, this curse taught Ernesto one of the most important lessons of his life, that pain is part of every great journey. Whether it was the pain of the poor he had seen in the streets or the pain of a body that wouldn't cooperate, he knew that pain was real. But he also knew that pain could be defeated. It could be faced head-on, fought against, and overcome. And so, while asthma continued to haunt him, Ernesto became stronger. His lungs may have been weak, but his heart, his spirit, they were stronger than ever. Nothing could stop him now. He had faced his worst enemy, his own body, and had won time and time again. This fight against asthma was not just a battle of breath. It was the training ground for his life as a revolutionary. Because, in the years to come, Che Guevara would face even greater battles. He would face armies, governments, the powerful forces of the world. But no matter what came his way, no matter how strong the enemy, Che would always remember the lessons of his youth. He would remember that pain does not define a man. It is how he responds to that pain that matters. Che had already learned to fight, and now nothing could break him. This curse of asthma, it was meant to weaken him. But in truth, it did the opposite. It made him into the warrior he was destined to be. A warrior who would fight not just for himself, but for the world. The battle had begun, and Che Guevara was ready for war. Chapter 4. The Road to Medicine. A doctor's heart. It beats inside him. Ernesto Guevara, now a young man, knows his path. Medicine calls to him, like a voice from deep within. He feels it every time he sees someone in pain, every time he witnesses suffering. The desire to heal, to help, to make things better for those in need. This passion, this fire, leads Ernesto to the halls of medical school in Buenos Aires. He studies hard, long nights, endless hours with his books. He is determined to learn everything about the human body. What makes it work? How can it break down? And most importantly, how can it be healed? As Ernesto dives deeper into his studies, he becomes fascinated by the power of medicine. A doctor has the ability to change lives. He sees how science can repair broken bones, heal diseases, and bring people back from the edge of death. It's like magic, but real. This knowledge excites him, and he throws himself into every lesson, every exam, every opportunity to learn more. But something is missing. As he walks through the streets of Buenos Aires, he sees a different kind of sickness, one that medicine alone cannot heal. The people, so many, are poor, struggling to survive. They don't have enough to eat. Their homes are falling apart, and their futures are uncertain. They are sick with hunger, with hopelessness, with injustice. Ernesto's heart aches. He can cure a disease, but can he cure poverty? He can heal a wound. But what about the deeper wounds of society? The unfairness of the world is always there, staring him in the face. And slowly, he begins to realize something. Medicine can only do so much. Something greater is needed. One evening, after a long day of studying, Ernesto sits alone, thinking. He asks himself, what good is it to heal one person if the world around them remains broken? What good is it to treat the body when society itself is sick? These thoughts trouble him. He wants to make a difference. He needs to make a difference. But how? He begins to see that healing isn't just about the body. It's about the soul of a nation. It's about justice, fairness, and equality. For Ernesto, being a doctor is no longer enough. He wants to heal more than just physical wounds. He wants to heal the world's wounds. But for now, he continues his studies. He pushes forward, determined to master his craft. Ernesto's professors admire his dedication. He is not just a student. He is a man on a mission. He is always asking questions, always thinking deeply about what he learns. His sharp mind never rests. In the hospital, Ernesto shines. He works with the sick, the injured, the dying. He sees suffering up close. But instead of turning away, he faces it head on. Every patient is a reminder of why he is here. The smile of someone who has been healed fills his heart with pride. But still, he feels the weight of something greater pressing on him. His classmates talk about their future as doctors, opening clinics, making money, living comfortably. But Ernesto's dreams are different. He is not interested in wealth or comfort. His heart is set on something else, changing the world. During one of his breaks from medical school, Ernesto decides to go on a journey that will change him forever. He and his friend set off on a motorcycle trip across Latin America. They travel through Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia, and beyond. But this is not a holiday. This is a journey of discovery. As they travel, Ernesto sees more of the world's suffering. In the villages, the towns, the cities, he meets people who are sick, not just with diseases, but with poverty and injustice. In Chile, he sees miners working in terrible conditions for almost no money. In Peru, he meets families living in dirt huts with barely enough food to survive. In Colombia, he visits a leper colony where people are isolated, forgotten, treated like outcasts. Everywhere he goes, Ernesto is reminded of the truth. Medicine cannot fix this. The people don't just need doctors. They need change. They need revolution. His heart burns with a new kind of fire. This journey is not just about seeing the world. It is about understanding his place in it. When Ernesto returns to Buenos Aires, he is not the same person. His eyes have been opened. He has seen too much, felt too much. He throws himself back into his medical studies with renewed energy, but now his mind is on something bigger. He knows that he can no longer be just a doctor. His destiny is calling him to something far greater. As he graduates from medical school, Ernesto's heart is full of pride, but also full of questions. He has the skills to heal, but is it enough? The world needs more than doctors. It needs people who are willing to fight for justice, for equality, for a future where no one is left behind. He begins to dream of revolution, of a world where the poor are no longer forgotten, where the sick are no longer ignored, where everyone has the chance to live a full, healthy life. But how can he make this dream a reality? What can he do? Ernesto knows that he cannot do it alone. He needs to find others who share his vision, his passion, his fire. He needs to find people who are willing to fight for a better world, no matter the cost. And so, the doctor becomes more than just a healer. He becomes a man with a mission to change the world. His journey is just beginning. The road ahead will be long, difficult, and dangerous. But Ernesto is ready, because deep down, he knows. The world needs more than medicine. The world needs a revolution. The road to medicine has led him here, but where will the next road take him? Chapter 5. The Motorcycle Diaries. A Journey of Awakening. 1952. The engine roars to life. Ernesto Guevara, still not yet Che, and his friend, Alberto Granado, are ready. They mount their motorcycle, La Poderosa, the mighty one, and set off on a journey across Latin America. But this is not just any adventure. This journey will change Ernesto forever. The two young men are full of excitement, laughing as they speed away from Buenos Aires, eager to see the world. The wind rushes past them. The road stretches out in front of them, full of endless possibilities. But what they don't know is that the world they are about to see is not the world of tourists and postcards. It is a world of pain, of poverty, of inequality. The first days of the journey are thrilling. They travel through Argentina, then Chile. But soon, the harsh reality of life in South America begins to reveal itself. The beauty of the landscape hides the suffering of the people. In Chile, Ernesto sees workers in the copper mines. Their faces are covered in dirt, their hands worn from years of hard labor. They work long hours in dangerous conditions, yet they are paid almost nothing. Their children run barefoot in the streets, hungry and tired. Ernesto watches them, his heart heavy. How can people live like this? How can they survive in such misery? This is not the world he imagined. His medical training has taught him how to heal people's bodies. But now, he wonders, who will heal the suffering of these workers? Who will give them hope? As they continue their journey, Ernesto and Alberto reach Peru. Here, they visit a leper colony, a place where people with leprosy are sent to live, far away from society. These people are treated like outcasts, forgotten, abandoned. They are sick, not only in their bodies, but in their souls. The loneliness, the isolation, it is worse than the disease itself. Ernesto, with his doctor's heart, is deeply moved. He spends time with the patients, listens to their stories, and treats them not with pity, but with respect. He does not fear their disease. He touches them, shakes their hands, and smiles at them, something they have not experienced in years. For the first time, Ernesto begins to understand what it means to truly help people. Not just with medicine, but with kindness, with compassion. But still, a question burns inside him. Why are these people cast aside? Why are they treated like this just because they are poor and sick? The journey continues. The motorcycle breaks down more than once, forcing Ernesto and Alberto to travel on foot, hitchhiking and walking through small villages and towns. In these places, they see even more suffering. Farmers work on land they do not own, struggling to feed their families, while the rich landowners grow wealthier. In Colombia, Ernesto and Alberto visit yet another leper colony deep in the jungle. Here, the patients are even more isolated, living in wooden shacks, forgotten by the rest of the world. Ernesto's heart aches as he witnesses their pain. He talks to them, learns their stories. Each one more heartbreaking than the last. The deeper they travel into Latin America, the more Ernesto sees the brutal truth. The world is broken. Everywhere they go, the rich exploit the poor, the powerful crush the weak. The systems that are supposed to protect people are failing, or worse, they are built to keep people down. Ernesto's eyes are opened. He realizes that medicine alone cannot fix this. No amount of doctors or hospitals can heal the wounds of a system that is so deeply unfair. People are not just suffering from illness, they are suffering from injustice. This truth shakes him to his core. It burns inside him, fueling his desire for change. He knows now that he cannot return to his old life. He cannot just be a doctor in a comfortable clinic while the world around him is bleeding. In Venezuela, the final stop on their journey, Ernesto and Alberto part ways. Alberto will stay and work as a doctor in a leper colony, continuing the fight in his own way. But Ernesto is different now. He feels a fire inside him that cannot be ignored. This journey has awakened something deep within him, an understanding that the world must be changed. He writes in his diary, reflecting on all he has seen, the poverty, the hunger, the suffering. I am not the same man I was when I left Buenos Aires, he writes. I have seen too much, felt too much. This journey, this long road across Latin America, has turned Ernesto into something more. He is no longer just a curious young man. He is a man with a mission, a man who knows what he must do. The journey ends, but for Ernesto, a new journey is just beginning. The man who will soon be known as Che Guevara has been born on this road. He knows now that he cannot stand by and do nothing. He cannot simply heal the wounds of the body. He must fight to heal the wounds of the world. The motorcycle may have broken down, but his spirit is stronger than ever. The road ahead will be dangerous, full of challenges, but Ernesto is ready. He is ready to fight for the people he has met, for the lives he has touched, for the future he believes in. The world is bleeding, and Che Guevara will not rest until that world is healed. The engine may have fallen silent, but the roar of revolution has just begun. Chapter 6. The Birth of Che. Ernesto begins to change. No longer is he just a curious student, a young man eager to learn. No, something deeper is happening inside him. The journey across Latin America has opened his eyes, but now, something more powerful is stirring within his heart. He has seen too much to stay silent. He has witnessed too many people suffering, too many lives broken by poverty and injustice. The man he was before, Ernesto Guevara, is transforming. A new person is being born. One with a mission, with a fire that will soon ignite the world. It begins in the streets of Latin America, the place where oppression shows its true face. In the crowded cities and small villages, Ernesto sees the same thing over and over again. The powerful crushing the weak, the rich growing richer while the poor grow hungrier. He can no longer just observe. He feels the pain of the people, their struggle becoming his own. Their fight is now his fight. He walks among them, listens to their stories, and feels the weight of their suffering. His heart burns with anger, but also with a deep sense of responsibility. He cannot turn away. He must act. Ernesto begins to write. His words are filled with passion, with rage, with hope. He writes about the people he has met, the injustices he has seen. His thoughts pour out onto the pages, thoughts of revolution, of fighting back against the systems that keep the poor in chains. The words that fill his journals are not just observations. They are a call to action. He writes about the miners in Chile, the lepers in Peru, the farmers in Argentina. He writes about the hunger, the sickness, the hopelessness. But he also writes about something else: change. He begins to believe that change is not only possible, it is necessary. It must happen. As his ideas grow, so does his reputation. Ernesto is no longer just a traveler or a medical student. People begin to see him as something more, a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of resistance. His friends start calling him Che, a nickname used in Argentina to address someone informally, like saying mate or pal. But this simple nickname will soon mean much more. It will become a symbol, a name that carries weight, that stands for revolution, for justice, for freedom. The birth of Che marks the beginning of a new chapter in Ernesto's life, a chapter that will change not only him, but the world. The man known as Che Guevara starts to take shape. His thoughts become sharper, his actions more focused. He realizes that the world cannot be changed by words alone. Action is needed. Che begins to talk about revolution, not just in theory, but in practice. He believes that the only way to end injustice is to fight it, to confront it head on. Che's revolutionary spirit grows stronger with every passing day. He studies the great revolutionaries of history: Simón Bolívar, José Martí, and Karl Marx. He reads about the movements that have shaped the world, about the people who have dared to stand up against oppression. But Che is not just reading anymore. He is preparing. He knows that his time will come, and he must be ready. As Che moves through the streets, he meets others who share his vision. He is not alone in his desire for change. In the smoky cafes of Buenos Aires, in the crowded markets of Mexico City, in the fields and factories of Latin America, Che finds comrades, brothers, and sisters in the struggle for justice. They speak in whispers, their eyes filled with determination. Revolution is not just an idea anymore, it is a plan. Che begins to gather followers. His words inspire people. His passion ignites them. He speaks of a future where the poor are no longer forgotten, where the rich no longer hold all the power. His speeches are simple, but powerful. We must fight, he tells them, not just with words, but with actions. We must stand up for the people, for the workers, for the farmers. We must build a better world. But the road ahead will not be easy. Che knows this. The forces that protect the rich and powerful are strong. They will not give up their control without a fight. Che understands that the revolution will come with danger, with sacrifice. But he is ready. He is ready to risk everything for the cause he believes in. In this moment, the name Che becomes more than a nickname. It becomes a banner, a symbol of the fight for justice. It is a name that carries with it the hopes and dreams of millions of people who have been silenced for too long. Che is no longer just a man. He is a revolutionary. As Che Guevara's journey continues, he begins to understand his purpose. He is not meant to be a doctor in a small clinic, treating the wounds of a few people. No, he is meant for something greater. He is meant to be a healer of nations, a fighter for the oppressed. His life will not be about comfort or safety. It will be about struggle. The transformation is complete. Ernesto Guevara has become Che, and the world will soon know his name. His path is clear now. He will fight for the people, no matter the cost. He will stand up against injustice, even if it means risking his life. He will dedicate himself to the revolution because the world needs it, and because he believes in it with all his heart. And so, the story of Che Guevara begins. The story of a man who refused to stay silent in the face of oppression, who refused to accept the world as it was. A man who believed that revolution was not just possible, but necessary. A man who knew that the only way to heal the wounds of the world was to fight for a better future. The birth of Che marks the beginning of a new chapter in history. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with danger and struggle. But Che is ready. The world will hear him soon. The name Che is no longer just a name. It is a movement, a force, a revolution waiting to happen. And Che Guevara, he is ready to lead it. Chapter 7. The Call of Revolution. The year is 1954, and fate brings Che Guevara to Guatemala. This is no ordinary stop on his journey. The country is on fire. The people are rising against their corrupt government, fighting for freedom, for justice. And Che? He feels it, deep inside his soul. His heart races, his blood boils. This is it, the fight he was born for. Che steps into a world on the edge. The streets are filled with tension. People whisper of revolution. The government, backed by the powerful United States, is trying to hold on to control. But the people have had enough. They want change. They demand justice. Everywhere Che goes, he hears stories of workers struggling, of farmers losing their land, of families living in fear. He can't just watch. Che has never been a man to stand on the sidelines. His heart won't let him. He sees the same pain here that he saw in the streets of Argentina, in the fields of Chile, in the villages of Peru. But this time, something is different. Here in Guatemala, the people are fighting back. Che is not yet the leader he will become, but the fire inside him is growing. He meets other young revolutionaries, men and women ready to risk their lives for freedom. He listens to their stories, shares their dreams. This, he thinks, is what I have been waiting for. He talks with them about justice, about the need for revolution. His ideas are sharp, his words passionate. The seeds of a true revolutionary are being planted in his heart. Every day, the streets of Guatemala become more dangerous. Protests turn into riots, and riots into battles. Che sees it all, the bravery of the people, the cruelty of the government, the fear and hope mixing together. His hands itch to help. His mind races with plans. He cannot stand by and do nothing. He begins to think of how he can join the fight, how he can make a difference. But Guatemala is not just a place of hope. It is also a place of betrayal. The U.S. government, fearing the rise of communism in Latin America, throws its weight behind a brutal coup. They back the military, sending weapons, money, and support to crush the revolution. The people are fighting with all their hearts, but they are outgunned, outmatched. Che watches as the revolution begins to crumble. The dream that felt so close is slipping away. The streets, once filled with hope, are now filled with fear. The government cracks down hard, hunting down anyone connected to the resistance. People disappear overnight, taken by soldiers, never to be seen again. But even as the revolution falls apart around him, Che's spirit remains strong. In fact, the defeat only makes him more determined. He sees, more clearly than ever, what they are fighting against, and what they are fighting for. He feels the deep injustice of what is happening, and it fills him with a new kind of energy, a new kind of rage. When the coup finally crushes the movement, Che is forced to flee. The streets are no longer safe for him. The government knows who he is, knows that he is part of the revolution. Soldiers are everywhere, hunting down anyone who dares to resist. Che has no choice but to escape. He leaves Guatemala, but not without a heavy heart. As he flees the country, his mind is racing. He is not defeated. No. The loss in Guatemala only sharpens his resolve. He understands now that revolution will not come easily. The powerful will not give up their control without a fight, a real fight. The lesson is clear. If he wants to win, if he truly wants to help the people of Latin America, he will need to be stronger, smarter, more prepared. Guatemala may have been lost, but the fire inside Che burns hotter than ever. He has seen the enemy up close. He has felt the pain of defeat. And now, more than ever, he knows what he must do. Che leaves Guatemala a changed man. He is no longer just a young idealist, no longer just a man with dreams. He is now a revolutionary, a man with a mission. The seeds that were planted in his heart during his travels have now grown into something powerful, something unstoppable. His time in Guatemala has taught him one important truth. Revolution is necessary. The system is broken, and only through fighting, through struggle, can the people win their freedom. He has seen what happens when the people stand up, and he has seen what happens when they are crushed. But he is not afraid. In fact, he is more ready than ever for the battle ahead. Che's journey is far from over. As he flees Guatemala, he knows that his place is in the revolution. Somewhere, somehow, he will find a way to join the fight again. The revolution must continue, and he will be part of it, no matter the cost. And so, the seeds of revolution grow within him. He may have lost the battle in Guatemala, but the war is just beginning. Che Guevara is more determined than ever to fight for justice, to fight for the people, to fight for a world where no one is left behind. The call of revolution rings in his ears, and Che Guevara is ready to answer. The world is changing, and Che Guevara is ready to lead the charge. Guatemala was just the beginning. The revolution will rise again, and this time, Che will be at the front. Vous avez dit, please write Chapter 8. Cuba beckons. Enter Fidel Castro. Mexico City, 1955. A fateful meeting with him, the man who would change the course of Che's life forever, Fidel Castro, a dreamer, a leader, a man who, like Che, believes that change must come by force. Together, they plan the unthinkable, a revolution in Cuba. They swear to fight for freedom, to liberate the oppressed. The bond is sealed in blood and fire. B1 level English in a dramatic audiobook style about Che Guevara, focusing on his childhood, youth, ambitions, and achievements. Use ellipses, exclamation marks, quotation marks, commas, and varied sentence to create drama, excitement, and tension, just like an audiobook. The writing should stir the listener's emotions, immersing them in Che's early life. The narrator's voice should be engaging, pulling the listener into the intensity of his journey. Avoid paragraph repetition and ensure the language is simple enough for B1 level English learners. The chapter should be around 1,000 words. Thank you. ChatGPT a DIT. Chapter 8. Cuba beckons. Enter Fidel Castro. Mexico City, 1955. The streets are busy, full of life, but for Che Guevara, this city is about to change everything. It is here, in the heart of Mexico, that Che meets him, the man who will change the course of his life forever. Fidel Castro. Che has heard whispers of Fidel, a man with big ideas, a dreamer like himself. But with one key difference, Fidel is already planning a revolution that will change Cuba, a country suffering under a cruel dictatorship. And Che? He is ready to listen, ready to act. When Che and Fidel finally meet, something powerful happens. It's not just a conversation between two men. It's the beginning of a movement, the start of a revolution. Fidel speaks with fire, with passion, his words filled with hope and anger. He talks about the people of Cuba, crushed by poverty, ruled by fear. He talks about freedom, about justice, about revolution. Che listens closely, nodding, feeling the same fire burning in his own chest. He has seen what Fidel is talking about. He has felt the pain of the poor, the hunger of the forgotten. As Fidel talks, Che's heart races. He knows deep inside that this is what he has been waiting for. This is his path. They talk for hours, and by the end of it, a decision is made. Che will join Fidel's fight. Together, they will plan the unthinkable. They will bring revolution to Cuba. The bond between Che and Fidel is immediate, and it is strong. They are both dreamers, yes, but they are also men of action. They know that talking about change is not enough. They must fight for it. Che respects Fidel's leadership, his ability to inspire people, to rally them to a cause. And Fidel? He sees in Che a kindred spirit, someone who is not afraid to risk everything for the people. Their connection is more than just friendship. It is a partnership built on shared ideals and a shared desire for freedom. They are not just planning a revolution. They are planning to change the future of an entire country, to bring down a corrupt government, to lift up the people of Cuba. But they know the road ahead will be dangerous, filled with challenges. They swear an oath of loyalty, of brotherhood, of revolution. Together, they will fight for Cuba's freedom. They will stand side by side in battle, no matter what comes. The plan begins to take shape. Fidel and Che, along with a small group of rebels, secretly train for the coming fight. They prepare for war, for guerrilla tactics, for the long struggle ahead. They gather weapons, they make alliances, and they study the land of Cuba, planning how to strike at the heart of the dictatorship. The dream of revolution begins to feel real, but the danger is also very real. They know that the Cuban government, led by dictator Fulgencio Batista, will not give up power easily. Batista's forces are strong, backed by the United States, armed to the teeth. But Che and Fidel are not afraid. They are determined, more than ever, to bring freedom to Cuba. As they train, the bond between Fidel and Che grows stronger. They share not just ideas, but a vision of the future. Fidel sees Che as more than just a soldier. He sees him as a leader, a man who can inspire others, a man who is willing to sacrifice everything for the cause. Che's role in the revolution becomes clear. He is not just a fighter. He is a commander. He trains the other rebels, teaching them what he has learned from his travels across Latin America. He shows them how to survive in the harshest conditions, how to fight with strategy, with intelligence. Che's discipline and knowledge earn him great respect among the men. But for Che, this is more than just a fight for Cuba. This is a fight for all of Latin America. He believes that if they can win in Cuba, they can spread the revolution to other countries, to other people who are suffering under oppression. His dream is bigger than Cuba, and it fuels his every move. Finally, the day comes. The plan is ready. Che, Fidel, and 82 other rebels board a small boat named the Granma, and they set sail for Cuba. The sea is rough, the boat is overcrowded, and the journey is dangerous. But nothing can stop them now. They know that what they are about to do will change history. As the boat sails toward Cuba, Che thinks about the future. He knows that the road ahead will be difficult, that many will fall in the fight. But he also knows that the fight is worth it. They are not just fighting for themselves. They are fighting for the people of Cuba, for the farmers, for the workers, for the children who have only known poverty and fear. The Granma finally reaches the Cuban coast, but disaster strikes. The landing is a failure. The rebels are attacked, their numbers are quickly reduced, and they are forced to flee into the mountains of the Sierra Maestra. Out of the 82 who started, only 12 survive. Che and Fidel are among them. But even in the face of defeat, their spirits remain unbroken. Che, now a hardened commander, leads his men through the mountains, hiding from Batista's soldiers, planning their next move. They may have lost the battle, but the war is far from over. The revolution has begun, and nothing can stop it now. In the mountains, Che and Fidel continue to build their army, recruiting local farmers and workers to join the fight. Slowly but surely, their forces grow stronger. Their resolve becomes unbreakable. They strike against Batista's army, launching surprise attacks, gaining more and more support from the people. The revolution is alive, and it is gaining power. The bond between Che and Fidel, forged in fire and blood, is stronger than ever. Together, they fight side by side, determined to free Cuba from the grip of dictatorship. And so, the revolution that began in the streets of Mexico City now burns brightly in the mountains of Cuba. Che Guevara, once just a traveler, once just a dreamer, is now a warrior, a leader, a revolutionary. The world is watching, and soon the name of Che Guevara will be known everywhere. The fight for Cuba has just begun, but Che Guevara is ready. He is ready to lead, to fight, and to change the world. The revolution is here, and Che Guevara will not stop until Cuba is free. Chapter 9. Into the Mountains of Sierra Maestra. The rebels land in Cuba, but disaster strikes. Che, Fidel, and their small group of fighters are ambushed. The government forces, strong and well-armed, are waiting for them. Bullets fly. Explosions tear through the air. Che's heart races as chaos surrounds him. The rebels, outnumbered, outgunned, scramble for their lives. The plan was bold, but now it feels like a mistake. In the confusion, the group is scattered. Many of their comrades fall, some are captured, and only a few make it out alive. From the 82 men who began this mission, only 12 survive the landing. 12. Che is one of them. Wounded, hunted, and with no time to rest, the rebels flee into the mountains, the mighty Sierra Maestra. Here, they hope to find safety, to regroup, to plan their next move. But the mountains are harsh, the terrain unforgiving. The dense jungle hides dangers at every turn. Wild animals, the enemy soldiers, the brutal heat. For days they have little food, barely enough water. The men are weak, tired, always on edge. Batista's army is searching for them, closing in, always just a step behind. Every night they sleep with one eye open, ready to run at a moment's notice. Yet, in this harsh environment, something amazing happens. Che Guevara begins to change. He is no longer just a doctor, no longer just a dreamer. He becomes something more. He becomes a commander. Che's leadership starts to grow. The men around him look to him for guidance, for strength. Even in the darkest moments, when it seems like all hope is lost, Che remains calm, focused. He tends to the wounded, using his medical skills to save lives. But he also starts to think like a soldier. He begins to see the Sierra Maestra not as a place of danger, but as a place of opportunity. The mountains, with their steep cliffs and thick forests, offer the perfect cover for guerrilla warfare. Che's mind sharpens. His tactical instincts grow stronger. He understands that they cannot face Batista's army head-on. They must strike from the shadows, using the mountains to their advantage. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Life in the mountains is hard, but Che and the rebels adapt. They learn how to move quietly through the jungle, how to hide in the trees, how to use the terrain to outsmart the enemy. Che becomes a true guerrilla fighter, a master of survival. His body grows stronger, his mind sharper. And in this time of struggle, Che's role within the group changes. He is no longer just Fidel's trusted friend. He is now a leader, a man who can make tough decisions, a man who can inspire others to keep fighting no matter the odds. The men respect him. They see his courage, his strength, his intelligence. Che is not afraid to get his hands dirty. He fights alongside them. He suffers alongside them. He shares their hunger, their exhaustion, their pain. And because of this, they trust him. As Che leads his men deeper into the mountains, the attacks from Batista's forces continue. Helicopters fly overhead, soldiers march through the jungle, searching for the rebels. But Che remains calm. He studies the enemy's movements, learns their patterns. He plans his attacks carefully, striking when the enemy least expects it, and then disappearing into the jungle before they can respond. Each small victory gives the rebels more hope. Slowly but surely, they start to gain ground. Che's reputation grows. He is no longer just a doctor who fights. He is a commander who leads, a revolutionary who knows how to win. But this journey is not without its challenges. The men are constantly tested by hunger, by sickness, by fear. Some begin to doubt. Some start to lose hope. But Che's presence keeps them going. His determination is unbreakable. Even when things seem impossible, Che pushes them forward. One night, as they huddle around a small fire in the mountains, Che speaks to his men. "We are not just fighting for ourselves," he says. "We are fighting for all of Cuba, for every man, woman, and child who has suffered under Batista's rule. We must be strong. We must be brave, because we are the only hope they have." His words stir something deep within the men. They feel his passion, his fire, and it gives them the strength to carry on, to keep fighting, no matter how hard the road ahead may be. As time goes on, Che's tactical mind continues to sharpen. He learns how to use the element of surprise, how to attack the enemy in small, quick strikes. He trains his men to move like ghosts through the jungle, to hit and run before the enemy even knows what happened. Che's guerrilla tactics begin to work. Batista's forces grow frustrated. They cannot find the rebels. They cannot stop them. Every time they think they have won, Che and his men strike again, and again, and again. The revolution is gaining momentum. Word spreads across Cuba. Che Guevara and his band of rebels are alive. They are fighting back. The people, inspired by their bravery, begin to offer support: food, supplies, information. The people of Cuba believe in the revolution, and they believe in Che. In the mountains of Sierra Maestra, Che Guevara becomes more than just a man. He becomes a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for all those who have been oppressed by Batista's government. He is no longer the young idealist who traveled through Latin America. He is now a revolutionary leader, a man who knows what it takes to win. This is Che's moment. This is where he truly becomes the fighter, the commander, the revolutionary that history will remember. Chapter 10. The Fight for Cuba. The revolution spreads like wildfire. From the mountains of Sierra Maestra, Che Guevara and his band of rebels launch attack after attack. Their strategy is clear: ambushes, surprise raids, quick strikes. They risk everything with each move, but they know it's their only chance. Che, fierce and fearless, leads his men into battle. His eyes are sharp, his mind always working, planning the next move. Every day, they strike Batista's forces. A patrol here, a convoy there. They hit hard and fast, and before the enemy can react, they disappear into the mountains. The Cuban people begin to take notice. Che's name starts to echo through the countryside, through the cities, whispered in markets, shouted in the streets. Che is here! Che is fighting! For the people of Cuba, Che becomes a symbol of hope, of courage. They see in him someone who is willing to stand up to Batista's dictatorship. Someone who is fighting not for power, but for them. Che and his men are not just soldiers, they are revolutionaries. They fight not just with guns, but with a vision for a better Cuba. And the people begin to rally behind them. Farmers, workers, students, all offer their help. They provide food, shelter, information. The revolution is no longer just in the mountains. It is spreading across Cuba, growing stronger with every day. But this fight, it is not without its cost. Every battle comes with loss. Brothers in arms fall, comrades are lost forever. Che feels each death deeply. These are not just soldiers to him, they are his friends, his family. Together, they have shared food, laughter, pain, and now they share sacrifice. The grief is heavy, but Che pushes forward. He knows they cannot stop. He knows that every life lost brings them closer to victory. "We fight for the future of Cuba," he tells his men. "We fight so that no more lives are lost to poverty, to hunger, to oppression." His words keep them going, even in the darkest moments. They know the risks, but they also know what is at stake. And for Che, there is no turning back. The revolution must succeed, or they will all die trying. As the revolution grows, so does Che's reputation. His name spreads far beyond the mountains now. In Havana, Batista's government fears him. They know that Che is not just a doctor. He is a commander, a brilliant strategist, and a leader who inspires his men to fight with everything they have. Che leads by example. He is always on the front lines, never asking his men to do anything he wouldn't do himself. He fights alongside them, sleeps alongside them, suffers alongside them. His men trust him completely, knowing that he will never abandon them, never give up. But the fight is brutal. The government forces are well equipped, well trained, and they outnumber the rebels by far. Every victory is hard-earned, every step forward paid for in blood. Yet, slowly but surely, the tide begins to turn. Che's tactics are ruthless, but effective. He leads surprise attacks on enemy bases, ambushing convoys, capturing weapons. Each victory boosts the morale of the rebels, and with every new success, more people join their cause. The Cuban people, tired of Batista's rule, see Che and Fidel Castro as their last hope. The mountains of Sierra Maestra become a fortress, a place where the revolution grows stronger every day. From here, Che and his men launch their attacks, moving like shadows through the jungle. They know the terrain better than anyone, and they use it to their advantage. But the fight is far from over. Batista's army strikes back, hunting the rebels with helicopters, tanks, and soldiers. The rebels are constantly on the move, always one step ahead, but the danger is real. At any moment, they could be captured, killed. And yet, Che never loses his nerve. He remains calm, determined, always thinking ahead. The people's support grows stronger, and the rebels' numbers swell. Che's name is now known across the entire island. He is no longer just a man. He is a symbol of the revolution. His bravery, his intelligence, and his passion for justice inspire others to rise up. But with each battle, more lives are lost. Che's heart grows heavy with the weight of the sacrifices made. He watches as men he trained, men who followed him without question, fall in battle. Some die in his arms, their last breaths whispering words of hope and revolution. The pain is real, but so is the purpose. Each fallen comrade strengthens Che's resolve. He carries their memory with him, their dreams, their fight. He knows he cannot let their deaths be in vain. The revolution must succeed, for them, for the people of Cuba, for the future. Victory feels close now. The rebels have grown strong. Batista's forces are losing ground, and the people are rising up in support of Che, Fidel, and the revolution. The tide has turned, and the momentum is unstoppable. But the closer they get to victory, the more dangerous the fight becomes. Batista, desperate to hold on to power, strikes back with even greater force. The battles are fierce, the stakes higher than ever. Che knows that this is the final push. Everything they have fought for is within reach, but it will not be easy. Che leads his men with the same fearless determination he has always shown. His eyes are focused on the prize, freedom for Cuba. He fights not for glory, not for power, but for the people he has sworn to protect, the people who have suffered for too long. And so, the fight for Cuba continues. The battles rage on, but Che Guevara stands tall, a symbol of hope, of revolution, of a new future. The revolution is spreading like wildfire, and soon Batista's regime will fall. The people of Cuba will be free, and Che will have played a leading role in that victory. But victory comes with a cost. The faces of his fallen brothers, the pain of loss. They will stay with him forever. The fight for Cuba is not just a fight for land or power. It is a fight for justice, for freedom, for a new world. And Che Guevara, with his fierce heart and unbreakable spirit, will not stop until that fight is won. Chapter 11. Victory and Beyond. January 1st, 1959. The world shakes as the Cuban Revolution triumphs. In the streets of Havana, the people celebrate. They cheer, they cry, they embrace one another. The dictator, Fulgencio Batista, has fled. The government that oppressed them for so long has fallen. After years of struggle, after endless battles, the revolutionaries, led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, have won. Cuba is free. But for Che, this is not the end. It's only the beginning. The fight may be over, but the real work has just begun. As the people fill the streets of Havana, shouting for joy, Che is already thinking about the future. Victory is sweet, yes, but it also brings responsibility. The revolution has won, but now they must build a new Cuba, a better Cuba. One where everyone has a chance to succeed, where education, healthcare, and equality are available to all. Che knows that the revolution wasn't just about removing Batista. It's about changing everything. Che quickly becomes a key figure in the new Cuban government. He is not just a commander anymore. He is now a leader, a revolutionary, who must help guide the country toward its new future. He takes on many roles. He helps organize the economy, he works to reform the education system, and he pushes for land reforms that will give farmers the power they have always deserved. Che believes deeply in the revolution's goals. He wants to create a Cuba where every person, no matter how poor, can live with dignity. He wants a society where children are educated, where the sick are cared for, where the rich no longer hold all the power. He dreams of a country that is fair, just, and free from corruption. One of Che's first tasks is to address education. He knows that true freedom comes from knowledge. In the past, only the wealthy could afford education. But Che wants to change that. He works to create schools, to train teachers, to make sure that every child in Cuba can read and write. A revolution that does not educate its people, Che says, is not a true revolution. He also focuses on health care. As a doctor, this is something close to Che's heart. He believes that health care is a basic human right. Under Batista, many Cubans had no access to doctors or hospitals. The poor suffered while the rich lived in comfort. Che is determined to change that. He works to build clinics, to train doctors, to ensure that no Cuban is left to suffer without help. But Che doesn't stop there. He pushes for land reforms. For too long, wealthy landowners controlled most of Cuba's land, while the poor farmers who worked the fields had nothing. Che fights to redistribute the land, to give power back to the people who grow the food. This, he believes, is the key to true freedom, giving the people control over their own lives, their own futures. As Che works tirelessly to rebuild Cuba, his thoughts begin to turn to something even bigger. He starts to wonder, why stop with Cuba? Why should the revolution be limited to one country? There are millions of people across Latin America, across the world, who are suffering under corrupt governments, who are oppressed, who live in poverty. Che believes that the revolution should spread. He dreams of a world where no one is left behind, where the power of the people rises up to defeat injustice. He sees the Cuban Revolution as just the first step in a much larger fight. We must take the revolution beyond our borders, Che says to Fidel. We must bring hope to all those who are suffering, not just here in Cuba, but everywhere. But this vision comes with challenges. Not everyone agrees with Che's idea of spreading the revolution. Some believe that Cuba should focus on itself, on strengthening its own country before helping others. But Che is not one to back down from a challenge. He knows that true revolutionaries cannot stand by while others suffer. They must act. Che travels to other countries, meeting with leaders, discussing how they can support revolutionary movements across Latin America. He believes in the power of the people to rise up, to demand justice. He offers Cuba's help, money, training, weapons, to those who are willing to fight for their freedom. His passion for global revolution grows stronger. He speaks of unity, of standing together against the forces of oppression. For Che, the fight for justice has no borders. But Che also faces criticism. Some accuse him of being too idealistic, too eager to fight. They say he is risking too much, that Cuba should focus on its own problems before helping others. But Che is not deterred. He believes that his mission is clear. The revolution cannot end with Cuba. It must spread to every corner of the world where injustice reigns. And so, Che continues to push forward. He is driven by a deep sense of duty, by the belief that he has been given a great responsibility. Victory in Cuba is not enough. He knows that true freedom, true justice, will only come when all people, everywhere, are free from oppression. January 1st, 1959, marked a victory that shook the world. But for Che Guevara, it was just the beginning. He knew that the work of revolution was never truly finished. As Cuba began to rebuild, Che looked outward, his eyes set on a much larger goal: freedom for all people, everywhere. The fight for Cuba had been won, but the fight for justice, for equality, for the end of oppression, that fight was just beginning. And Che Guevara, the man who had once been a young doctor dreaming of helping people, was now one of the most powerful voices of revolution in the world. The revolution had triumphed in Cuba. But Che would not rest until the flames of freedom burned bright across the entire globe. Chapter 12. The Revolutionary Spirit Lives On. But Che can't rest. The fire inside him still burns bright. Victory in Cuba isn't enough for him. The revolution may have succeeded there, but Che Guevara's dream is much bigger. He dreams of a world where the poor are not forgotten, where the powerful are held accountable, where justice reigns for all. And so, Che makes a bold decision. He leaves behind a life of comfort and power in Cuba, choosing instead to continue the fight for freedom elsewhere. Che knows the risks. He understands the danger, but nothing can stop him. His heart, full of passion and purpose, leads him to the next chapter of his revolutionary journey. First, he takes the fight to the Congo in Africa. There, he hopes to bring the same spirit of revolution that he helped ignite in Cuba. The people in the Congo, just like in Cuba, are suffering under oppression. They are fighting for their freedom. And Che believes he can help them win. But the Congo is not Cuba. The struggle is different. The challenges even greater. The terrain is harsh, the politics complicated. Despite his best efforts, Che finds it difficult to organize the rebels, to unite them in their fight. But he doesn't give up. He never gives up. Even when the odds are against him, even when the fight seems impossible, Che keeps going. His belief in the revolution is unshakable. After months of struggle, Che is forced to leave the Congo. The revolution there does not succeed, but Che's spirit remains unbroken. He is not defeated. No, he is more determined than ever. The fight must go on. And so, Che turns his eyes to Bolivia. Bolivia is his next battleground. It is 1966, and Che arrives in the Bolivian jungle with a small group of fighters. He knows the risks. He knows that this mission will be dangerous, but Che is ready. He has always been ready. In Bolivia, he hopes to start a revolution that will spread across Latin America, lifting up the poor, bringing down the corrupt. He believes that Bolivia is the spark that will light the flame of change for the whole continent. But the Bolivian jungle is unforgiving. The terrain is rough, the weather harsh. Food is scarce, and the rebels are cut off from supplies. Che and his men struggle to survive, to stay hidden from the Bolivian army that hunts them day and night. The jungle is not a friendly place. It's a place full of dangers, both from nature and from the enemy. Che is no stranger to hardship. He pushes forward, leading his men with the same fierce determination that made him a hero in Cuba. But the Bolivian forces are closing in, and this time, the odds are not in Che's favor. Despite the difficulties, Che's belief in the revolution never falters. He continues to fight, continues to plan, continues to dream of a world where the poor can stand tall and free. Even when his forces are weakened, even when the situation grows darker, Che refuses to give up. He writes in his diary, recording his thoughts, his hopes, his fears. He knows that he is in danger, but his ideals remain untouched. Better to die standing, he writes, than to live on your knees. These words are not just lines on a page. They are the core of who Che is. He is willing to give everything for the cause of justice, for the people who need him. His heart beats for the revolution, for freedom, for equality. But Che's enemies are closing in. The Bolivian army, with the help of the CIA, has found him. They surround his camp in the jungle. The situation is dire. Che and his men are outnumbered, trapped. There is no escape. But even in these final moments, Che remains defiant. He fights until the very end. Captured and wounded, Che stands tall. The Bolivian soldiers may have caught him, but they cannot break his spirit. He faces them with courage, with the same fire that has driven him all his life. When asked if he is afraid, Che replies calmly, "I know you've come to kill me. Shoot, coward, you are only going to kill a man." These are Che's last words. On October 9th, 1967, in a small village in Bolivia, Che Guevara is executed. The man is gone. But his spirit lives on. Che's death shocks the world. But his ideas, his ideals, his revolutionary spirit, they are immortal. Across Latin America, across the world, people are inspired by Che's courage, by his dedication to the fight for justice. His image becomes a symbol of revolution, a symbol of the fight for freedom. His face, with its iconic beret, becomes a global icon of resistance against oppression. For many, Che Guevara is not just a man. He is a symbol of hope, a symbol of the belief that the world can be changed, that the powerful can be challenged, that justice is worth fighting for. His life may have ended in that Bolivian jungle, but the fire he lit continues to burn in the hearts of people everywhere. Che's story is not just the story of one man. It is the story of a dream of a world where the poor are not forgotten, where the powerful are held accountable, where every person has the right to live with dignity. This dream is what Che fought for, and it is the dream that lives on today. Che Guevara's life was filled with struggle, with sacrifice, with battles both won and lost. But in the end, it wasn't just the battles that mattered. It was the spirit behind them, the spirit of revolution, of justice, of hope. And so, Che's story comes to an end. But his spirit lives on, forever inspiring those who dare to stand up, who dare to dream of a better world.